Good news, you just woke up in a lab. Bad news, by tomorrow you'll probably be shipped off to some random planet to kick some separatist ass. Are you ready for that? Well, let's see. Between us, I don't think you're even going to last until tomorrow. In this video, we're diving into the life of a clone trooper, imagining you, a regular guy, trying to survive a day in their boots. So grab your blaster, strap on your armor, and let's see if you can make it through the day. We're going to Kamino, Timecodes City, a whole planet of endless rain, towering spires, and the most morally flexible scientists you'll ever meet. Kaminoans, cold, efficient, and morally flexible. Let's just say they don't lose sleep over ethics. So the Republic is in a panic. There's talk of war, secession, and they have zero standing army, just a bunch of peacekeeper Jedi and local system guards. Into this panic steps the Kaminoan Prime Minister, Lamassu. He's got a sales pitch. We have the solution, a grand army, made to order. And he's not talking about building droids. He's talking about growing people. The template for this army? One man, Jango Fett. Now, you've probably heard that name. Legendary bounty hunter. The man had a reputation that would make a ranker think twice. So they take his DNA and they start cooking. They wanted the best raw material money could buy. For him, it was just a job. For the millions grown from him, it was an entire existence. Think about that for a second. The entire Grand Army of the Republic, over 1.2 million troopers at the start of the Clone Wars, all came from one guy's DNA. One guy. It'd be like if every soldier in World War II was a clone of, I don't know, Audie Murphy or something. The scale is mind-boggling. And that's just the initial order. Units were rolling off the line constantly to replace losses. We're talking millions more over the course of the war. Now, you've got to understand the logistics. Kamino is one giant, wet, windy cloning facility. The cities like Timecodes City aren't cities in the way we think. They're production plants. The spires are growth chambers, barracks, mess halls, and training sims stacked on top of each other. The entire planet's economy, its purpose, is building and shipping human beings to war. And who's paying for all this? The Republic. But the weird part is that almost nobody in the Republic government knew about it. The initial order was placed by a Jedi Master, Seve, who foresaw the coming war. But he died under mysterious circumstances, and the project was essentially hijacked. The money was funneled, the records were buried. By the time the war kicks off, and Obi-Wan Kenobi stumbles onto Kamino, the army is just ready, sitting in its tubes, fully grown, fully trained, waiting for pickup. So the Jedi, the peacekeepers, are handed the keys to this massive, ready-made army. Overnight, they go from negotiators and scholars to generals. They were in so far over their heads. Their oversight was big picture stuff, battlefield strategy, morale, the day-to-day reality of the clones' creation, their conditioning, their entire upbringing. That was purely Kaminoan, and this is where it gets dark, really dark. It wasn't enough to have Jango's genes, they improved them. They made the clones more obedient, more docile, less independent. They accelerated their growth, so a clone went from a fertilized cell to a full-grown man in about 10 standard years. You'd be a toddler at 2, a moody teenager by 6, and ready to carry a blaster by 10. Your entire childhood is a rush job, but the crown jewel of this engineering, the thing that makes the whole operation so sinister you can taste it, is the inhibitor chip. Every single clone had one, surgically implanted at the earliest embryonic stage, right in the center of their brain. The official line, the one told to the Jedi, was that it was a safety feature, a behavioral modification chip to dampen aggression, to ensure loyalty, to make the clones more reliable. The Jedi, trusting souls that they were, mostly bought it. A few had doubts, but the war was on, and they needed their army. We know the truth, the chip was Order 66. It was a sleeper command, buried in every one of those millions of heads. A secret command protocol, one of many, that when activated, would override a clone's free will entirely. It would turn them from a loyal soldier into an executioner in the blink of an eye. And the man who put it there? The same man who secretly commissioned the army in the first place. Darth Sidious, Chancellor Palpatine. The army was created by the Sith, for the Sith, and given to their enemies to use. It's the most elaborate, most horrifying Trojan horse in history. The Jedi led these men, fought alongside them, trusted them with their lives. They called them by name, not just numbers, and the whole time, every single one of those men had a kill switch for their Jedi generals wired into their brainstem. So the clones lived a paradox. They were bred for absolute loyalty to the Republic and the Jedi. They were conditioned to believe in that cause, but their very biology was a lie waiting to be told. Their loyalty was a software program, and Sidious had the admin password. And what was the clones' perspective in all this? Nothing. They were the product, the unit. They were decanted from their growth tubes, given a number, CT something something, and fed into a machine of training, of doctrine, of war. They had no say in their creation, no choice in their purpose. Their lives were planned out from the first cell division to what was assumed would be a glorious death for the Republic. You're the product, you're the one in the tube, your story hasn't even started, and it's already been written, sold, and paid for by people who see you as a line item on a budget report. You still think you're built for that life? You still think you've got what it takes? Buddy, you haven't even been born yet, and trust me, the birth is where the fun really starts. So imagine you wake up for the first time ever. You're floating in some murky fluid tube, everything's blurry, you're breathing through a mask, and your first thought isn't "where am I?" It's "report for duty." Because from the moment you exist, you're not really a person, you're a product. CT4127 or whatever generic barcode they stamped on your brain. Congrats, you're officially government property. And your mum doesn't exist. Your dad? Technically Jango Fett, but don't get excited. The guy was paid to be your genetic blueprint, not throw you a birthday party. Instead of a hug or a family photo, you get Lama Su, a tall, pale alien who speaks like a customer service rep and treats you like he's managing a warehouse full of blasters, not sentient beings. And he's got one goal: turn you into a soldier that doesn't question orders, doesn't think for himself, doesn't ask why, and definitely doesn't dream about opening a bakery on Naboo one day. The Kaminoans didn't raise kids, they manufactured war assets. The entire cloning operation on Kamino, it's basically a military IKEA, all sleek, cold, sterile, and somehow designed to remove any trace of individuality. Rows and rows of identical dudes being pumped out like action figures. Nobody gets a say. You grow up under fluorescent lighting, sterile hallways, and the occasional scolding from a clone commander who was literally born 5 minutes before you. Your training doesn't start at some age like it does for normal kids. You don't hit 5 and get enrolled in clone kindergarten. The second you're pulled out of the vat, your brain is already marinating in programming. Indoctrination doesn't even wait until you walk. It's baked into your head like a corrupted startup file. They called it education. What it really was, indoctrination. Day in, day out, you're fed the same lines. You were created for a purpose. The Republic needs you. Unity, duty, loyalty. Say those words in the mirror enough times, and you start to believe them. What were you doing when you were 6? Probably throwing mud at your cousin, or learning not to eat glue. Clone troopers? At 6, which for them is basically mid-teens, thanks to accelerated aging. They're learning how to strip a blaster and memorize the entire chain of command by heart. And if you ever dared to wonder, why am I doing this? You got hit with the Kamino special. Simulated electric shocks, forced repetition drills, and something called reconditioning, which is just a fancy word for brainwashing with extra steps. Disobeying or hesitating was never an option. You want privacy? Ha! You're never alone. Cameras, instructors, and other clones are always watching. There's no such thing as me time when your whole identity is tied to how fast you salute. Every clone lives in a dorm with a dozen others, all identical faces staring back at you. Personal space? Not a concept. You think sharing a bathroom with your sibling was bad? Try brushing your teeth, shoulder to shoulder, with a dude who literally looks exactly like you and is also competing for the same scraps of validation from your squad leader. Now, enter the phrase every clone hears about 47 times a day, for the Republic. Sounds noble, right? Feels like the kind of thing you'd shout dramatically in a movie before charging into battle. Except here, it's more like a password that unlocks compliance. They drill it into your skull so hard, you start mumbling it in your sleep. For the Republic becomes the reason for everything. Your lack of free will, your endless training, the fact that you exist at all. You don't eat unless it's for the Republic. You don't breathe unless it's part of serving the mission. Imagine this happening to you. You're born in a lab, denied family, denied privacy, stripped of choices, force-fed propaganda, and quietly fitted with a brain bomb you don't know about. And then people wonder why clones eventually snapped. You'd snap too. Modern folks love to talk about mental health, safe spaces, and work-life balance. Clone troopers don't even get sleep without some drill sergeant yelling at them to dream of blaster formations. And don't think the Jedi were handing out therapy coupons either. Most Jedi treated clones like walking blasters. Some were kind, sure, but kind in the same way someone's nice to their pet. The Jedi didn't question where the clones came from, or what they believed, or whether they had dreams of their own. They gave them orders, and the clones followed, every time. Even the ones who started to think differently, like Fives, they didn't make it. Fives tried to expose the chip. He figured it out, connected the dots, and what happened? Branded a traitor, chased down. That's what you got for thinking too hard. But the indoctrination worked so well, most clones never even got to the questioning phase. Their whole world was orders and obedience. Asking why was like asking your toaster to write poetry. Not gonna happen. And it's not like there was an exit plan. No clone trooper retirement program. No mental health leave. No beach house on Scarif. You were trained, used, and discarded. The chip was your leash. The brainwashing was the cage. You think prison sounds harsh? Clones didn't even know they were in one. So how would you do if you were dropped in there? You, with your DoorDash dependency and your 3-hour mental recharge naps. You're not making it through week 1, bro. You'd be crying for your mum after the first group chant of "For the Republic." And the worst part? The ones who survived long enough to understand what was really going on. They couldn't escape it, because the brainwashing wasn't what they were taught. It was who they were. They didn't have a before to go back to. There was no real you underneath the programming. The chip didn't override a personality. It was installed before the personality ever got a chance to grow. So yeah, go ahead. Wear the clone armor cosplay, paint your helmet, quote Rex like he's your best friend, but don't kid yourself. If you were actually born in that tube, raised in that barracks, and trained in that environment, you'd break, because you're not built for a world without questions. And the clone army was designed to crush questions before they could even form. You ever think your gym routine is hard? Wake up at 9, throw back a protein shake, hit the treadmill for 20 minutes, curl a few dumbbells, maybe sweat a little, post a mirror selfie, and call it grinding. Cool story. You just failed out of clone boot camp on day 0. Clones. These guys didn't get warm-up weeks or onboarding videos with happy music. Their training began the second they could stand upright, and there was no ease into it phase. Kamino didn't believe in soft starts. You didn't stretch, you didn't get coffee. You got screamed at by a bald sergeant with a cybernetic leg who hated your face, even though it looked just like his. And this wasn't some cute obstacle course with soft padding and foam pits. It was military hell, cranked to 11. Rain? Good. That's when drills doubled. Lightning? Even better. Now it's night vision training. Oh, and if you're hungry, should have eaten faster. Your squad is moving whether you're finished or not. Day 1 is about weeding out the weak. The phrase they used was simulation readiness, but let's call it what it is, sanctioned torture. You get thrown into a virtual battlefield with live ammo set to stun. You're running tactical drills while still figuring out which leg goes in front when you sprint. They don't teach you to walk. You go from crawling to combat sprinting in a day. Live fire exercises? Oh, those start early. Yes, real weapons. Yes, real stakes. Getting shot didn't mean you died, but it meant you hurt. The stun rounds they used didn't feel like tasers. They felt like a speeder slammed into your spine. And guess what? That pain was intentional. The idea was simple. If you can't handle getting stunned, you'll fold when it's a thermal detonator. And nobody wants to be the guy who folds on Geonosis. You weren't learning to survive, you were learning to win. That's the key difference. Regular armies train you to defend yourself. Clones were trained to dominate. Quick, efficient, and brutal. The Kaminoans didn't need survivors, they needed victors. And let's talk about simulations. You were inside giant combat domes with shifting terrain, moving platforms, sniper droids, landmines, and scenarios designed to break your brain. You'd be running across a fake bridge, then boom, floor drops, and suddenly it's underwater combat. And you're supposed to remember your squad's position, your ammo count, and the nearest cover while coughing up fake seawater and dodging lasers. Failure, hidden, suppressed. The Kaminoans didn't publish washout numbers. You think 1.2 million perfect soldiers popped out of those vats ready to go? Nah, The ones who failed quietly disappeared. They weren't recycled, they were repurposed. Maybe janitorial duty in some underground tunnel. Maybe medical testing. Maybe they just vanished. Point is, you don't get a second chance. You make it or you're off the chessboard. Physical endurance? Forget your little weekend hikes. These guys ran miles in 0G, in full armor, with weighted packs, while dodging stun bolts. The only rest you got was when you passed out. And even then, you'd better hope it wasn't in front of the sergeant. If it was, you woke up mid-push-up because clones didn't rest. They recovered on the move. Your food, ration-paced. Tasteless, textureless, vaguely beige. It barely kept you alive. And it definitely didn't fuel you like some protein bar. And sleep, you didn't get 8 hours. You got 4 max. In a shared barracks with a dozen snoring, farting, restless copies of yourself. And you better believe if one clone slipped out of formation the next day, all of you paid for it. Discipline was everything. Step out of line? You're doing laps. Talk back to your instructor. You're cleaning plasma burns off the walls. Show emotion? Good luck with that. They trained it out of you. Smiling was suspicious. Crying was weakness, and weakness was contagious. But what really broke most people, and yes, I mean you, soft civilian viewer, wasn't the physical abuse. It was the mental side. The total stripping down of your identity. Your likes, dislikes, dreams, hobbies, irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was your ability to execute orders with zero hesitation. You'd break within hours. You, with your playlists, your comfort hoodie, your I need time to process posts. In boot camp, processing is what happens when they send your body to the recycling unit. And if you were thinking, well, I'd make friends and push through it with my brothers, I have bad news. This wasn't some cheerful squad building camp. You were surrounded by competition. The clone next to you might look like your twin, but he's also the guy who'll outshoot you, outrun you, and maybe take your spot if you screw up. Brotherhood came later, if you made it that far. During training, it was a blood sport with identical faces. Some clones had more natural instincts. The Alpha class, the RCs, the batch of commandos, they had extra enhancements. You're base model. You're the Windows 98 of clones. No upgrades. You're doing your basic drills, while some kid with custom genetics is vaulting over walls like a superhero. You thought finals week in college was tough? Try getting evaluated on hostage rescue tactics, demolitions, zero-gravity maneuvering, and planetary survival, all in the same day. And the instructors didn't give participation trophies. If you messed up, your squad suffered. They got less food, less rest, more punishment, which meant they hated you, which meant you didn't sleep well, which meant you messed up more. See the loop? And even when you passed the drills, survived the exercises, and graduated from basic, guess what? You didn't get a party. You didn't get a trophy. You got armor slapped on your back, a blaster shoved in your hands, and a one-way ticket to the front lines. Some clone troopers didn't even get to finish full training. When the Clone Wars kicked off, the Republic needed bodies fast. So guess what they did? They shipped out unfinished clones, half-baked soldiers barely out of training, thrown straight into battle. And they still fought. They still followed orders. And most of them died. You're disposable, replaceable. And if you die in training, no memorial, only a fresh clone pumped out of the tube tomorrow to take your place. Still think you'd make it? So, let's say, by some miracle, you didn't die, cry, or get quietly recycled during basic. Good for you, champ. You're officially a clone trooper. But now, you're feeling bold. You think you've got that it factor. You want more. You want to be an ARC trooper, a Republic commando. Maybe you're delusional enough to think you're the next hunter, tech, or wrecker from the Bad Batch. Here's the deal. Specialized training makes basic look like daycare. You're stepping into a world where the dropouts don't just fail, they break. Physically, mentally, completely. Let's start with the ARC troopers, Advanced Recon Commandos. These guys are the best of the best. They think for themselves. That's the real threat. ARC training was mental agility, adaptability, improvisation. You didn't get a manual. You got dropped into a black site with no map, no briefing, and told, figure it out. ARCs were expected to complete missions alone if necessary. That meant going behind enemy lines, sabotaging droid factories, rescuing hostages, and escaping with nothing but a vibroblade and spite. These guys wore special Phase 2 armor, custom painted, tricked out, and modded like a hot rod. Why? Because they earned that gear. you're still trying to adjust the chin strap on your standard helmet. ARC candidates got trained directly under Alpha class clones, the original batch of elite Django copies, guys like Alpha 17. These were the grizzled veterans who trained legends like Rex and Cody. Their idea of a warm-up? Live fire rooftop infiltration in a blizzard. If you slipped, no one caught you. If you hesitated, you failed. If you questioned the mission, you got benched permanently. Oh, and the drills? Stuff like blindfolded shooting while upside down, disabling enemy droids using only improvised tech, surviving in hostile environments with zero supplies for 72 hours, leading squads through war games where the enemy was actual clone instructors trying to break you. Then there's the Republic Commandos, clone force units trained for Black Ops. You want to talk about pain? This is where it lived. Commandos trained in squads of 4, bonded tighter than blood. Their training was a psychological gauntlet. These guys were forged to survive missions no one else could even attempt. Commando training facilities were darker, colder, and meaner than anything you saw in basic. Instructors weren't encouraging. They were ex-mercenaries who thought empathy was a virus. You had to demonstrate total coordination with your squad under extreme pressure. Flashbangs, environmental hazards, simulated betrayals. They'd rig exercises where one of your own squad mates was secretly ordered to sabotage the mission. If you didn't spot it, you failed. If you cracked, you failed. If you hesitated to shoot them in the leg and keep moving, definitely failed. And the equipment? Commando armor was heavier, more tech-packed, more demanding. Every piece required maintenance, calibration, and combat awareness. These guys weren't just good soldiers. They were walking Swiss Army knives of destruction. You needed expert blaster proficiency, advanced demolition skills, tech slicing knowledge, tactical leadership, zero fear of death. Miss one of those? Back to the line troopers, pal. If they let you back at all. And then, on the edge of insanity, you've got Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, the genetic mutants, stronger, faster, weirder, and absolutely not part of the standard program. These guys were walking anomalies. Hunter with his heightened senses, Tech with boosted intelligence, Wrecker, basically a humanoid tank. Crosshair, literally born to snipe things in the face. Their training wasn't documented. They were treated like weapons development projects, not brothers. And if you think you could have joined them, bro, you couldn't even join their group chat. They were elite among elites, misfits who turned their defects into strengths. The Kaminoans saw them as unstable, unpredictable, and maybe uncontrollable, which is exactly why they got results. The thing with the Bad Batches, they didn't only survive training. They broke it. They rewrote it. And most regular clones couldn't stand them because of it. Why? Because they operated outside the system. They weren't bound by the same rules. And in a system built on obedience and standardization, that kind of freedom wasn't admired. It was feared. But even with all their skill, all their advantages, you know what they didn't get? Rest. They were still tools, still expendable. The missions they got, suicide level. The enemies they faced, often outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched. Didn't matter. They went anyway. And half the time, they came back covered in smoke, blood, and sarcastic one-liners that barely masked the trauma. You still with me? These elite tracks didn't come with bonuses. No clone ever said, I want to be an ARC trooper so I can retire early with a nice pension. There was no retirement. You trained harder, got sent on more dangerous missions, and died faster. And the psychological cost? Massive. The more elite you were, the more isolated you became. ARCs were often deployed solo. Commandos operated in tiny squads, far from support. You might survive the mission, but you'd lose something else along the way. Your sense of self, your sanity, your brothers. Let's flip the mirror again. You think you'd even get past the first week of this kind of training? You got winded walking up the stairs this morning. You stopped doing push-ups because your wrists hurt. You skipped the gym because the music was too loud. Now imagine doing explosive breaching drills in the middle of a simulated war zone while being screamed at by a dude who eats nails for breakfast. This is a grind that breaks the strongest and turns the survivors into ghosts. Being elite didn't mean you were better. It meant you were more dangerous. To enemies, to allies, and to yourself. Because once you saw how disposable you really were, it got harder to believe in any of it. And yet, clones still tried. They pushed themselves. They volunteered. Because somewhere deep down, they wanted to be more than just a number. Even if they weren't allowed names, they wanted to matter. That's the real tragedy. The most loyal, most skilled, most capable soldiers in the galaxy, and their reward was the front line, every time. Alright, you've made it this far. You're feeling tough. You've been punched, shot, shocked, and screamed at. You think you've earned your place in the Grand Army of the Republic. You expect something high-tech, right? Some badass, state-of-the-art kit forged in the core worlds, designed by genius engineers, with shiny armor plating and a sexy heads-up display. Think again. You step into the armory, and what do they give you? A bucket with a visor that fogs up if you breathe wrong, plastoid armor that cracks if you sit down too hard, and a rifle that jams if you so much as look at a sandstorm. Welcome to your loadout, soldier. You don't get options, you don't get upgrades, you get issued. And what you're issued is the military equivalent of duct tape and hope. Let's start with the Phase 1 armor. The iconic white shell. Looks sleek in the posters, right? You probably had an action figure of it as a kid. What they don't tell you is that this thing feels like you're walking around in a sealed lunchbox with built-in swamp humidity. No ventilation. That's the first thing you notice. Kamino's cold, but the second you're on a warm planet, you're cooked. Ever put on full football pads and sprinted stairs for 12 hours in the sun? Yeah, it's like that. Only with less flexibility and more risk of passing out in your own sweat. The armor plates? Plastoid, which sounds fancy until you realize it offers about as much protection as a plastic kitchen tray. It'll stop low-velocity blasts, but anything heavy, a sniper shot, a rocket, even a lucky shrapnel hit, you're toast. And if the shot doesn't kill you, the armor locks up and pins you down, like a coffin with knees. You fall in this armor, and half the time you need your brother to help you up. And good luck running. This stuff wasn't built for agility, it was built for uniformity. You ever wonder why the clones move like their joints are made of rust? Because they are. Now, the helmet. You'd think this is the most advanced part. After all, it's got a built-in HUD, right? Night vision, comms, atmospheric sensors? Technically, yes. Functionally? Barely. The display glitches if you take a headshot. The comms go staticky in storms. The rangefinder? Mostly decorative. And the visor? It's like wearing a tinted fishbowl. Your field of vision is trash. Peripheral awareness? None. You know what's worse than getting flanked? Not seeing it coming. And this all leads to a fun little ritual every clone knows, the daily gear check. Because if you don't check every component, every cable, every circuit, your armor might short out mid-mission. There's nothing like sprinting through a battlefield, your squad's screaming, and suddenly your helmet blacks out like it's doing a firmware update. Let's talk about the DC-15 blaster rifle. This thing looks like a beast. It's long, chunky, intimidating, the kind of weapon that screams clone death machine until you try to use it. The recoil? Brutal, not balanced at all. You're constantly fighting it to stay accurate. And the weight? It's like carrying a steel bar with a grudge. Great for intimidation, terrible for quick movement. And in tight quarters, you may as well be swinging a broom. The DC-15 also loves to jam, especially after extended fire. And you will be doing extended fire because droids don't retreat. They just keep coming. You empty mag after mag, barrel overheating, internal circuits whining, and then it happens. Click. Nothing. You slap the side, still nothing. Now you're standing there, holding a glorified club, hoping the guy next to you remembered to clean his rifle. What about backup? The DC-17 blaster pistol is lighter, faster, and pretty reliable. If you're a commando, you might get assigned one of the off-brand blasters, the ones that feel like toys and sound like someone spitting through a straw. And let's not forget the fun part. Your kit gets reused. That's right, most of your armor and gear, previously worn, by someone who probably died in it. They just scrub off the blood, reassign it, and send you out. New gear is a myth. You get hand-me-downs, if you're lucky, from a guy who wasn't exploded. Now, eventually they upgraded everyone to Phase 2 armor. Supposedly improved design, a little more comfortable. Better sensors, but still plastoid, still glitchy, still mass-produced by beings who viewed clones as numbered assets, not soldiers who needed to survive. The difference? Phase 2 at least looked cooler, but by the time you got it, you were probably already halfway dead. Let's say your gear breaks mid-battle. Can you replace it? Not really. Supplies are always low, maintenance crews are stretched thin. You might have to swap shoulder pads with a dead guy just to keep going. You might have to duct tape your blaster or slap together a helmet out of 2 cracked halves and some welding foam. Nobody cares. The mission doesn't wait for you to get a fresh pair of boots. You ever tried fighting with a cracked visor? Rain gets in. Dust gets in. Everything gets in. Now you're half blind, breathing recycled air, overheating, while your rifle skips shots and your boots are full of swamp water from the last landing zone. You know what luxury looks like to a clone: a functioning helmet seal, a blaster that doesn't misfire, armor that doesn't smell like the last guy who died in it. You dream of gear that works, not gear that's great. Functionality becomes fantasy, and we haven't even talked about gear for different environments. You think you get new armor when deployed to a snow planet or a jungle. Nope. Same white plastoid. The same one that overheated on Geonosis is now freezing your guts on Auto Plutonia. You slap a scarf over your shoulders and hope frostbite doesn't set in. That's your thermal regulation, good vibes and an extra pair of socks. The only guys who got fancy gear were the ones in special units. Arcs, Commandos and the Bad Batch. They got mods. Upgrades, custom builds. The rest of the army? Cookie cutter clones with cookie cutter armor and a prayer. And if you ever complain, if you ever mutter, hey, maybe this armor sucks, you get disciplined, or worse, ignored. Because you're not expected to have opinions, you're expected to be grateful. Some clones try to mod their own gear, paint it, tweak it, personalize it. That was their tiny rebellion, a way to scream, I'm still a person, in a world where your serial number mattered more than your name. The gear didn't make the soldier survived in spite of it. And you? You'd quit the moment your visor fogged up. You'd rage because your comlink cut out. You'd be cooked, tripping over your own boots, muttering something about design flaws. But the clone next to you, he'd pick you up, hand you a working rifle, slap you on the back, and say, welcome to the war. Okay, so far, we've dragged Phase 1 armor through the mud. For good reason. We already talked about how it was stiff, hot, visibility was trash, and the HUD barely qualified as tech. But believe it or not, that was just the beginning. Clone armor evolved, so let's walk through the evolution and the specializations of clone trooper armor, from standard issue to full-on madness. Phase 1. Already covered this one in detail earlier, but to sum it up, sleek, iconic, and functionally a coffin with hinges. Phase 2. Now with 10% less death. This was the upgrade. The Republic finally realized that sending millions of soldiers into battle wearing choking hazards wasn't sustainable. So, Phase 2 shows up mid-war. Sleeker helmet, better field of vision, improved internal systems. And yeah, it was a step up. Slightly better ergonomics, more modular plating, and a reworked HUD that didn't freeze every time a thermal detonator exploded nearby. The helmet was tighter, more contoured, breathing system improved. The visor was a game changer. Not great, but at least you could see without turning your whole torso. Still plastoid though, still mass-produced, still not saving you from a B2 Super Battle Droid's cannon. But hey, if Phase 1 was a death sentence, Phase 2 was at least a plea bargain. Clones who lived long enough to wear Phase 2, mostly grateful. It didn't solve their problems, but it made dying slightly less guaranteed. That's the best you could hope for in this army. ARC Trooper armor. You've unlocked Pain Plus. They were the guinea pigs for the customizable future of clone gear. Their armor was built off Phase 1, but bulked up, upgraded, and modded harder than a gaming PC. Extra plating? Check. Enhanced comm systems? Check. Shoulder pauldrons and karma skirts? That was the style, but they actually served a function. Shielding from debris and shrapnel in close combat, and the rangefinder on the helmet actually worked. Unlike your basic CT helmet that'd short circuit during a drizzle, ARC gear was designed to keep you fighting, even after you'd been shot twice and lit on fire. But remember, it wasn't issued, it was awarded. You don't get the ARC loadout by surviving. You get it by being so deadly that Kamino puts you in the don't waste this guy category. Also, it was heavy, extra tech, extra weight. You were stronger and faster, but also carrying a mini armory on your back. Clone Commando armor. Built for gods, issued to ghosts. This is where things get actually good. Republic Commandos got Catan class armor, built tougher, smarter, and more reliable than anything the regular army ever touched. Independent shielding, real-time tactical displays, sound dampening, environment sealing, helmet HUD that actually did what it was supposed to do. And best of all, it fit. You could move in this armor, fight, sneak, survive. Commandos operated in squads of 4, deep behind enemy lines, with no support. So, their armor had to function like a survival pod, wrapped in a murder machine. The downside? If you weren't trained in it, you couldn't even walk straight. This thing was complex. And if you were trained in it, you were probably also trained to never expect backup, support, or rest. The armor kept you alive, that was the point. Nobody else would. Oh, and commandos carried more specialized weaponry too. Sniper attachments, anti-armor mods, and a DC-17M blaster that could switch functions mid-fight, versatile, deadly, and not available to you. Stealth armor, used for covert missions. Basically, the goth cousin of clone armor, sleek, rare, and only for the sneaky types. The suit helped with stealth ops, but it came with trade-offs. Reduced plating, less mobility padding, and limited visibility through certain helmet mods. You had to be fast, silent, and ready to ghost out if spotted. Because if someone did see you, you weren't tanking anything in this suit. It's optimized for dodging, not blocking. Still cooler than anything the regs got, but also riskier. Cold assault armor. Remember how regular armor was garbage on snow planets? Cold assault armor, like the kind used on Auto Plutonia, tried to fix that. Extra insulation, thicker boots, enhanced breath filters, and yes, a scarf-looking calmer. But let's not pretend it was comfortable. It still locked up, it still chafed. You were still freezing, it just delayed hypothermia instead of preventing it. Still better than the standard kit where your toes turned blue after 10 minutes in the wind. Scuba armor. Hope you like drowning less. Underwater missions? Welcome to Clone Scuba Troopers. Specialized gear with rebreather systems, flipper attachments, and tighter sealant. The helmet had enhanced visibility and sonar ping systems. If anything cracked, water pressure would crush your ribs like a soda can. It was better than swimming with your helmet off, but not by much. You were still in a fight, still outgunned, just wetter. Pilot armor. Clone pilots wore slimmer, lighter armor for cockpit use. You didn't need plating when you were sitting in a starfighter with a 40% chance of blowing up on re-entry. The helmet came with enhanced targeting systems and interface ports for the ship. Cool? Sure, but useless outside the cockpit. The moment you ejected and hit dirt, you were basically wearing pajamas. Flame trooper gear. These guys carried flamethrowers. That's already bad news. But the armor? Modified to handle heat exposure, barely. Extra seals, fire-resistant materials, and reinforced gloves. But guess what? You were still walking around with a tank of flammable liquid on your back, in the middle of a battlefield. One good shot, and you became a firework. Airborne armor, used for jetpack troopers, like on Utapau. Lightweight, slimmed down chest plate, wind-resistant helmet mods. Jetpack compatible. Pros? You got to fly. Cons? You usually died on impact. This armor didn't save you from a bad landing or an AA turret. It gave you mobility, not safety. And most of the time, the clones using it were dropped into meat grinders. And then there's the custom mods clones, being actual thinking humans, despite what the Senate believed, started modding their gear. Rex, Fives, Hardcase, they all did it. Clone armor evolved, got tweaked, adapted. Every suit had its flaws. Every variant had trade-offs. There was no perfect clone armor, only gear that made you slightly more likely to see tomorrow. And the real joke? No matter how good your armor was, it didn't matter. Because the enemy always had something stronger. Droid tanks, snipers, buzz droids, lightsabers. You were born to be replaceable. The armor just slowed the process. You made it through Kamino. You were born in a tube, brainwashed into loyalty, trained until your bones hurt, screamed at by instructors, with more scars than teeth, and now you're shipping out. Welcome to your first deployment. Geonosis. A rock covered in bugs, sand, caves, more sand, and absolutely no sympathy for anything made of flesh. This is the moment you've been preparing for. And by preparing, I mean given a barely functional rifle, armor that overheats if you breathe in it, and a squad of clones who may or may not remember your name. You've never seen a real battlefield, not like this. Simulators? Sure. Obstacle courses? Done. Live fire training? Great. But this? This is a full-blown war zone the moment the doors open. You can feel it in the hangar bay of the Lart gunship as it shakes with turbulence. Red warning lights flashing, the guy across from you puking into his helmet. And you're trying to act cool, but your stomach's doing front flips. No one gives a pep talk. No Jedi shows up with a motivational quote. Your squad leader might shout something like lock and load, but it's not for morale. It's to drown out the panic. And then the doors slide open. It hits you like a gut punch. Heat, blinding light, screams. Red laser bolts everywhere. The sky is filled with fire. Lats exploding mid-air. Gunships falling out of the clouds, with dozens of clones still inside. And the ground? A mess of craters, droid wreckage, and clone bodies that stopped moving 5 seconds after they landed. You hit the dirt, if you're lucky, and start moving without thinking, because thinking gets you killed. Your first orders are simple: secure the zone, push forward, don't die. Spoiler alert, you're gonna fail at least one of those. The bugs, the Geonosians, are flying above you, screeching, armed with sonic blasters that can liquefy your insides if they hit just right. They're above, around, popping out of the walls like nightmare wasps with wings. And then there's the droids. You trained against simulated versions, sure, but the real thing? They don't stop. They don't hesitate. They don't miss. You peek out of cover for 1 second, and you're met with a hail of blaster fire, like they're aiming for a personal vendetta. Super battle droids, B2s, are tanking direct hits like they're getting massaged. Droidicas roll in, deploy their shields, and start deleting squads like someone pressed fast forward on your death. You're trying to move forward, but the terrain is wrecked. Everything is smoke and dust. Your helmet's HUD, the one that never worked right, is glitching again. Friendly markers are flickering. You aim at what you think is an enemy and almost tag a clone from another unit. He doesn't yell, he just keeps running. No one has time to care. You see a shiny get shot in the leg, drop his rifle, and scream. He tries to crawl behind cover, but another bolt takes out half his torso. You stare for half a second too long and get pulled back by your sergeant. Keep moving, he barks. You do, but that image is seared into your brain now. That was his first battle too. You don't even fire your weapon in the first 10 minutes. You're too busy not dying. But then it clicks. Training kicks in. You raise your rifle, you shoot. You keep moving. You stop being a person and start being a tool. You see a clanker fall and move to the next. There's no cheering, there's no time. Your squad is moving toward a ridge. Orders are to clear it for artillery placement. You lose a guy halfway up. Stepped on a mine. He's gone before he hits the ground. You don't check, you can't. You're already in range of enemy cannons, you just keep running. The Jedi are somewhere nearby. You can see them, flashes of blue and green through the smoke. One of them jumps 15 feet in the air and slices a tank in half. For a second you believe you're invincible, for a second. Then a shell hits nearby. The blast knocks you off your feet. Your ears ring. Vision goes white. Your armor's cracked, your legs numb. You advanced too fast, got surrounded, and now you're retreating, limping through hell, while the wounded scream and droids chase you like they're on rails. You make it back to the fallback line, crawling half the way. You're missing a squad mate. No one knows what happened to him. He was there 5 minutes ago, probably buried under rubble. No one stops to look. There's no time to grieve in real time. Eventually you regroup, you reload, you breathe, barely. And then it's back out, again, because the planet isn't secured, the mission isn't done, and you're just one of thousands. The next wave is coming, and if you're still breathing, congratulations, you're going out again. Let's talk about casualties. Over 192,000 clones died on Geonosis during the opening battle. First day. That's not an exaggeration. That's official Republic numbers. Kamino had to triple their production output just to replace the loss. The numbers didn't shock anyone. That's what clones were for. The Jedi felt it, some of them at least. The rest focused on the war effort. You were too numb to feel anything. Survival was your only win condition. You didn't get pulled off the field for injury unless your limbs were gone. And even then, if the medic slapped on a back-to-patch and you could still hold a rifle, you were thrown back in. This wasn't about morale. This was about progress. And that's what Geonosis was. Your grand debut, the Republic's big moment, the Jedi's first real command, and your initiation into the concept of war without glory. There was no ceremony, no post-battle speech. No one came by to thank you. You got back to base, dropped your cracked helmet on the floor, collapsed on your bunk, and if you were lucky, passed out before the nightmares kicked in. Some shinies went catatonic, others couldn't sleep for days. Some laughed. You might even feel proud for surviving, until you realised the guys who didn't survive were just like you. Same face, same voice, same damn barcode. There's something that sticks with you after that. The sound of laser fire doesn't fade. The smell of burning armor clings to your nose. The feeling of losing a brother you didn't even know well enough to call a friend. That's the one that keeps you awake later. And the worst part? This was just one planet. One battle. One day. The Clone Wars were just beginning. Geonosis was the Republic pulling the trigger. You were the bullet. You finally survive your first battle. You've got blood on your armor that's not yours. Your hearing's permanently cooked from gunship cannon fire. And your knees doing this weird click thing every time you move. But hey, you made it. So naturally, the Republic rewards you with a promotion, right? Maybe a medal. A few days off? Not so fast, they assign you to a Jedi. And look, from the outside, this sounds cool. Like really cool. You're thinking, oh great, I'm going to fight next to a galactic space wizard with a laser sword and mind tricks. Dude's probably got inner peace, glowing wisdom, and a moral compass sharp enough to cut through droid armor. Yeah, no, that's the brochure version. What you actually get is a dice roll. A galactic game of guess which robed maniac is going to decide your fate today. Some Jedi are great, let's be fair. Take Plo Koon. Guy treated clones like people. Didn't just bark orders, actually asked if you were doing okay after a mission. Knew names. Didn't throw lives around like spare credits. That's the kind of general who made you believe maybe you weren't just a barcode with a blaster. Obi-Wan? Classic military dad vibes. Bit dry, bit sarcastic, but sharp, tactical. Kept his cool even when everything was on fire, which, given the Clone Wars, was most of the time. He wasn't perfect, but at least when he sent you into a war zone, it was part of an actual plan, not just the Force told me to. Then there was Anakin Skywalker, an enigma. He was bold, reckless, brilliant, terrifying, sometimes all in the same sentence. You could trust Anakin with your life. You could also lose it because he decided to improvise mid-battle. And don't even get started on his stare. You'd be standing at attention, and he'd just be looking at you. Like he saw through the armor, through your face, through your file, like he was waiting for something. No one ever asked what, but here's the thing. The good Jedi, the decent ones, the ones that remembered you had names, not just numbers, they were rare, because for every Plo or Obi-Wan, there was a Krell. Oh yeah, Pong freaking Krell. The man was a walking war crime in a cloak. 4 arms, 2 lightsabers, 0 empathy. Treated clones like we were malfunctioning droids. Would send you into suicide missions just to watch the casualty numbers rise like it was a performance metric. And when you questioned him, when you dared to say, hey General, maybe sending 400 men through a choke point defended by 16 tanks and a minefield is a bad idea. You got demoted, locked up, or told to shut up and die trying. He didn't give orders. He gave punishments. And the wildest part, he wasn't even unique. Some Jedi snapped under pressure. Some went numb. Others, and this is where it got dangerous, got creative. They started treating clones like variables in a war game, moving battalions around like we were pieces on a Dederic board. What if we sacrificed this regiment to bait out the enemy flanks? Yeah, cool tactic, except we're the bait. And you forgot to tell us the plan. You start to see patterns. Jedi who led from the front, who took blaster bolts with their men, who checked in between missions, who knew your name. Those were the ones you'd follow into hell. But the others? The ones who hovered behind the lines, half meditating, mumbling about balance while you were bleeding out in a trench. That's when you started wondering who the real enemy was. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Jedi were never trained to lead armies. They were peacekeepers, monks, mystics. Most of them had never commanded anything bigger than a diplomatic transport. Now, suddenly, they're leading legions of clones into full-scale planetary warfare. Some adapted, most floundered, and a few got drunk on the power of it all. And clones, we weren't allowed to fail. We weren't allowed to hesitate. You mess up, you're reassigned, or worse, put on punishment detail, and you never got to question orders. Because Jedi weren't officers, they were commanders. Supreme authority, endorsed by the Senate and the Force itself. Even the good ones made mistakes. You remember when Mundi sent a full frontal assault against entrenched droids on Magito? That wasn't strategy, that was a coin flip. Guys you trained with for years got vaporized trying to secure some frozen bridge because a robed general thought surprise was better than air support. But the worst part? You couldn't talk about it, not even with your brothers. Because once you admit your Jedi is reckless, cruel, or clueless, then what? You're stuck with him anyway. You don't get to swap, you don't get a transfer. He's yours. And the best case scenario is, he lives long enough to maybe learn how to lead. Worst case, he dies, you get a new one. And the wheel spins again. There were Jedi who tried to get to know their clones, who asked about Kamino, about training, about how it felt to grow up without a name. But even those conversations had this distance, like they were observing you, not connecting. You were a mystery to them, a living weapon, sometimes useful, sometimes pitiful, rarely equal. And that's what stung most. You risked your life day after day for a cause you didn't choose, under commanders who couldn't relate to you, for a republic that saw you as a number in a spreadsheet, and the only thing that held it all together, brotherhood. The clone next to you, the guy who dragged you out of that canyon, the guy who handed you his rations when yours ran out, the guy who made a joke just before the drop so you didn't have to puke in your helmet. But even that wasn't safe. Not with Jedi like Krell running around. Not with command structures that gave all the power to people who didn't bleed the same way you did. You start to get this dread, every mission, every briefing. Is this the day your Jedi finally loses it? Is this the day he stops seeing you as a person and starts seeing you as a piece on the board? The trust you had, if you had any, starts to decay. And that's when everything goes wrong. Because when the trust dies, orders start feeling like death sentences. And when a Jedi looks you in the eye and says, "I need you to hold the line," you start wondering if he actually means, "I need you to die while I think of something better." So yeah, some Jedi were legends. Leaders, brothers, others, monsters in robes with lightsabers and a superiority complex. And most, somewhere in between, conflicted, confused and dangerous. You didn't get to choose who led you, but you did get to feel every one of their failures, every bad call, every rushed decision. In your skin, in your bones, in the friends you buried. And whether they treated you like a brother or a blaster bolt sponge didn't matter in the end, because none of them stopped what was coming. You ever wonder what it feels like to follow orders that make you sick? To point your blaster at someone who sounds like you, talks like you, calls you brother, and pull the trigger anyway? Welcome to Umbara, the planet that broke every unbreakable soldier. The battlefield that shoved loyalty through a wood chipper and called it strategy. You land on Umbara already tired. You've been fighting non-stop for months, and now you're being thrown into another campaign on another planet that nobody seems to know anything about. And the first thing you notice when the gunship opens? You can't see a damn thing. There's no sun. The whole sky is just a swirling mass of black clouds and thick fog. It feels like walking into a dream, where everything's 10 shades too dark, and every sound echoes like something's following you. Your boots hit the ground, and the terrain gives you your welcome gift. Uneven ground, slippery roots, twisted jungle vines, and bioluminescent flora that seems like it's glowing just to mock you. This place isn't a battlefield, it's a trap designed by someone who hates soldiers. Everything about it feels hostile, not just dangerous, angry, as if the planet itself wants you gone. Before you even get to process the mess, the changing command drops on you. Your regular Jedi general's been reassigned, no reason given, and now you're under Pong Krell, and the second you hear that name, your stomach knots. Even on Kamino, you heard the stories. Krell's got a rep, not the good kind. He's not the inspiring type. He doesn't give speeches or lead charges. He gives orders, vague ones, and sends clones to die with clinical detachment. You're lucky if you ever even see him. Most of the time, he's back at base, safely away from the front lines, while you and your brothers are running blind through the jungle, getting picked off by enemies you can't even identify. These aren't droids. These are Umbarans, organic fighters, heavily armed, using some kind of plasma tech you've never trained against. They don't move like anything you've faced before. They're fast, they're coordinated, and they don't fight fair. In your first engagement, the comms go down within minutes. Night vision's useless. Everything's glowing and pulsing, and your HUD can't process it. Thermal scopes are blocked by the planet's weird atmosphere. It's chaos. Pure chaos. The kind of fight where you don't know where your squad ends and the enemy begins. You don't know how long it lasts. All you know is when it's over, you're down 4 men, and you didn't even see who shot them. You expect Krell to debrief, adjust strategy, maybe pull the unit back for a breather. He doesn't. He tells you to go back in. Same path, no changes. When someone tries to push back, ask for air support or intel, anything, They get shut down hard. Adapt, he says. That's it, that's his whole philosophy. And so begins the worst cycle you've ever lived through. March into the dark, lose men, return with the wounded, get ordered right back in. Over and over again. It's like he's testing how many of you he can burn through before command raises an eyebrow. Except no one ever does. You start hearing rumours. Other squads are getting hit even harder. One group walked straight into a minefield. Another got caught in crossfire because their position wasn't logged properly. And every time, Krell just shrugs it off. The mission comes first. What mission? No one knows. You're not capturing territory. You're not securing any strategic point. You're just bleeding out in a jungle that doesn't care you exist. And then one day, it gets worse. Somehow, you're sent on a mission. Standard stuff. Suppress hostiles in a given area. You follow the orders, move in, and engage. It's rough. Real rough. You lose more men than usual. But something feels off. The way the enemy's moving. The way they're coordinating. They're not Umbarans. Not even close. And then you hear it. Clone voices. It hits you like a punch to the chest. The enemy you've been engaging for the past 10 minutes isn't the enemy at all. They're clones, a different squad, sent on a mirrored path, also ordered to engage hostiles in this exact same zone. Krell sent 2 squads into each other, and you just killed your brothers. You look around at the bodies, and they all have the same armor as you. Same faces, some of them you recognize. CT-6208, CT-1119, guys you've trained with, ate with, laughed with. You shot at each other because the guy in charge wanted to see what happened when you did. Someone in your squad breaks down. Another takes his helmet off and punches a tree until his hand fractures. Someone else throws up. And then there's the quiet ones. The ones who sit down, staring at the ground, replaying every second in their heads trying to figure out who they killed. You expect Krell to own up, to explain, maybe admit a mistake, but when the report gets filed, he says it was intentional. He wanted to see how clones handle unpredictable engagements. He calls it a success. And that's when you start to feel something you've never let yourself feel before. Hatred. Not for the enemy, for him. You realize Krell doesn't care about the war, doesn't care about winning. He cares about seeing how far he can push you before you crack. He treats you like machines, disposable ones. And the Republic, the Jedi, they're letting him. Either because they don't know what's happening here, or because they do, and they think it's fine. At this point, you're not even fighting for the Republic anymore. You're fighting for each other, for the guy next to you. Because if you don't, no one else will. The next week, things spiral fast. More missions, more casualties. One guy goes missing, and no one even reports it. You stop asking questions. You stop expecting answers. You just go where they tell you and pray you make it out. But eventually, something inside the unit shifts. The conversations in the barracks start changing. You hear the word mutiny, and nobody reacts like it's treason. It feels like common sense, because if Krell stays in command, none of you are making it out alive. So you do it. You plan a takedown. Quiet, calculated. You don't tell too many people. You organize, wait for the right moment, and then move in. You catch him off guard. For once, his arrogance works against him. He never thought you had it in you, but he's wrong. Because you're not following orders anymore. You take him into custody, lock him down, disarm him. It should feel like a win. It doesn't. Because the moment he's restrained, he starts laughing. Says this was inevitable. That the Jedi were fools to trust you clones. That you're nothing more than defective lab rats. That all it takes is one bad day for your programming to unravel. And you realize something awful. He wanted this to happen. The whole campaign was a setup, a trap to turn you into monsters and then act shocked when you finally snapped. Even now, after everything, the betrayal, the blood, the insanity, you still hesitate. Because your mind doesn't want to believe it. That a Jedi, someone you were raised to trust with your life, was capable of this. But he was. And no matter what happens next, you're never going to look at the Jedi the same way again. After Krell is exposed, Command barely acknowledges it. You're told to move on. The campaign continues. The war doesn't stop, and neither do you. You finish the mission. You take the planet. That's what the record will show. Mission successful. But what it won't show is how many clones were lost because of one man's ego. How many were turned against each other. How many went back to the barracks that night and sat in silence, staring at nothing. So, tell me again, You think you'd survive as a clone? By the time you're deployed to Mandalore, you already know how the game works. You're used to losing sleep, eating garbage, taking orders from Jedi who may or may not get you killed, and watching your brothers go down faster than the Republic Budget Committee can approve another clone batch. You fought through bugs on Geonosis, fog on Umbara, and that one time on Ryloth where the med droid gave everyone the wrong injections. You've seen some things, you've done worse, but none of it prepares you for Mandalore. The name sounds classy, doesn't it? Like it should have marble halls and warriors in gold armor. What you get instead is a hollow city, lit in neon, built like a death trap on every level. You're dropped into a fortress designed to kill invaders. And guess what you are? The only thing more dangerous than the Mandalorians still holding out in the capital are the ones wearing your armor and fighting alongside you, because you know half these guys are hanging on by a thread. First impressions? There is no front line, there's no safe zone, there's no edge of battle. Mandalore is vertical chaos. You're fighting in streets, on rooftops, across bridges suspended hundreds of meters in the air. It's a meat grinder built into a parking garage with jetpacks and no railings. You barely land before the firefights start. The city's a mess of twisting corridors, sniper nests, and tunnels that lead to ambushes. Every corner is a trap. Every hallway has a trip mine or a thermal charge tucked behind a pillar. Your helmet keeps throwing up alerts and warnings every few seconds until you're tempted to rip it off and just rely on vibes. And you know what makes it worse? The enemy isn't confused battle droids. It's Mandalorians. Trained warriors. Humans. Smart, fast, heavily armed, and built for this terrain. These guys have jetpacks, blasters, knives, and zero hesitation. They know every inch of this city, and they're not afraid to use the architecture to kill you. You're just some clone from Kamino who learned to shoot straight in a padded VR room. You hit the ground, you clear 2 blocks, and then you're pinned down by sniper fire coming from a tower half a kilometer away. You try to flank them? They've got mines waiting. Try to jetpack up the side? They've got a squad positioned above you dropping explosives. You're in their house, and they are not interested in giving it up. And then there's the verticality. It's not like anything you've dealt with before. Normally, battles have a direction. Here, it's 360 degrees of bad decisions. Up is just as dangerous as down. You've got squads fighting on bridges, while above them, 2 more squads are dogfighting in mid-air. And below them, there's another team clearing tunnels, filled with rigged charges and Mandalorians with knives taped to their rifles. One guy loses his foot in a jetpack malfunction and crashes into a window 10 stories below. You think it's over for him, but nope. You hear a scream and see him come flying out the other side, somehow still alive, still shooting. It's like fighting inside a blender full of knives and glass. You lose track of time. There's no real night and day in Sundari. The artificial light in the domed city stays the same shade of miserable the whole time, and the schedule is meaningless anyway. You fight, patch your wounds, reload, and get sent to the next zone. You stop sleeping. Your armor starts to stink so bad your squad jokes about setting it on fire. You think they're kidding, you're not sure. And through all this, you've got Ahsoka Tano in charge of your operation. Technically, she's not even a Jedi anymore. You'd follow her through the 9th layer of Mustafar before you'd take another word from a clone-hating lunatic like Krell. She's in the trenches with you, not issuing orders from a palace. She's blocking blaster fire and clearing rooms, while half the officers on Coruscant are sipping caf and playing strategy sims. When the fighting moves underground, things get even more feral. The tunnels beneath Sundari are a nightmare. Low ceilings, foul air, power flickering on and off. Mandalorians hiding in ducts, dropping behind you like demons. At one point, your unit enters a chamber that turns out to be a trap. 10 guys walk in, 2 walk out, both soaked in blood and one missing half his helmet. You can't even tell who it is until he speaks. Above ground isn't better. Mandalore isn't only a city, it's a symbol. The people here have been fighting for centuries. Honor, pride, and revenge are woven into their DNA. You think your Republic-issue training gives you the edge? These guys have been dueling since they were 5 years old, and now they're backed by Darth Maul. Yeah, that Darth Maul, who's taken over the Mandalorian splinter group and turned them into a fanatical death cult. They're wearing red and black armor and dual-wielding blades like they're auditioning for a Sith metal band, and they fight like they already accepted death as a roommate. At one point, one of your squad mates, tough guy, zero fear, sees Maul in person, makes eye contact, and physically stops shooting for a full 2 seconds. That's how heavy the presence is. Maybe you get split off from your unit during one of the assaults, and for about 30 minutes, you're alone in an empty building with your blaster, a fading power cell, and the sound of blaster fire in every direction. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a broken window and realize your helmet is cracked, you're bleeding from your lip, and your eyes are bloodshot. You look like the end of a war movie, except no one's rolling credits. The story keeps going. Eventually, reinforcements link up with you. You push forward, another sector cleared, another street controlled, but the cost? You're stepping over rubble that used to be a barracks. You're finding clone helmets with nothing underneath them. You stop asking, who made it? Because the answer is never good. And then the jetpacks come back. You're halfway through securing the West Tower when a Mandalorian squad ambushes from above. You've got clones flying mid-air, exchanging blaster fire while weaving between towers. It looks cool if you're watching from a distance, but if you're in it, it's hell. One of your brothers gets clipped mid-flight, spirals into the side of a building, and his pack explodes. You're issued a jetpack eventually too. Lucky you. Ever tried flying through a narrow city at high speed while being shot at by people who know the layout better than your navigation computer? It's less tactical freedom and more accidental fireworks. You scrape the side of a building 3 seconds into your first flight and nearly break your ribs. Still, you press on, because this is what clones do. We keep pushing until the battle ends, or we stop breathing. And the battle does end, eventually. Maul gets captured, his forces are broken, the city falls. You'd think that would feel like victory. It doesn't. You're not cheering, you're not hugging. You're sitting on the floor of a ruined hallway, next to a pile of broken armor, watching med droids wheel away your squad mates. Your shoulders dislocated, your knees are wrecked, your armor is scorched and cracked in 3 places. You haven't eaten in 18 hours, and you smell like someone cooked meat in a recycling bin. Someone hands you a ration bar and says good job. You chew it in silence and wonder if you're ever going to sleep again without dreaming of blaster fire echoing off Ferrocreta walls. That's the siege of Mandalore, exhaustion and loss, and the kind of fatigue that burrows into your bones and doesn't leave. So if you, sitting in your cozy chair, think you'd stand a chance on Mandalore, let me ask you this. You ever fought for 18 hours straight with no rest? You ever cleared a stairwell floor by floor while dodging jetpack assaults? You ever carried 3 injured brothers through a collapsing tunnel because the structure was rigged to blow? You ever stared down a guy with horns growing out of his head who looked like he could snap you in half with his mind? No? Then you'd last about 4 minutes, maybe 5 if your armor fits right and you manage not to trip over your own jetpack. The siege of Mandalore was the beginning of the end for a lot of us. We won, technically. But when the dust settled and we were standing over a broken city full of ghosts and betrayal, the questions started creeping in. What are we even doing? Who are we fighting for? And what happens next? It starts like any other day. You're walking alongside your Jedi General, the one who's been in the trenches with you since your first drop, the one who taught you to trust your instincts, who treated you like something more than a number. They're giving you another plan for another mission. You nod along. Maybe you crack a joke. Maybe they actually laugh. There's a moment where it feels like you're more than cannon fodder. Then your comlink pings. It's a high priority signal. It's coming from the top. Republic High Command, encrypted, clearance level. You've only seen a handful of times. You don't even think about it. You open the transmission. 2 words appear on the display. Order 66. And then your mind goes quiet. Completely, terrifyingly quiet. Your body moves. Your hand grips your blaster. Your legs position for stability. Your weapon rises to aim at the Jedi, standing just a few meters away. You didn't decide to do any of that. It's like someone else is behind your eyes, pulling levers, and you don't hesitate. You shoot. The Jedi turns at the sound, confused for half a second, long enough for the next few bolts to tear through their chest. Their lightsaber stays clipped to their belt the whole time. They don't even get to draw it. You fire again until they're no longer moving, and still, you don't feel anything. You're calm, not angry, not scared, not even conflicted. It's like you're watching yourself from a few feet away, completely aware of what you're doing, but helpless to stop it. Because the inhibitor chip isn't some sci-fi possession gimmick. It doesn't hijack you like some dark side force trick. You're still there, still awake, still you. But your loyalty has been overwritten at the root level. Like someone hacked your DNA and rewired your purpose. The instinct to obey overrides everything. All those years of fighting side by side doesn't matter. The trust, the friendship, the respect, wiped clean. You know what's worse than being a puppet? Being aware you're the puppet. You don't forget what you've done. The chip doesn't erase the memory. It just buries your conscience deep enough that it can't stop you. But when the effect fades, when the switch flips back off, you remember every detail. The look on their face when they realized what was happening. The sound of the body hitting the ground. The scorch marks. The silence afterward. Across the galaxy, millions of clones experience the exact same thing. Within hours, the Jedi Order is shredded, gunned down mid-battle, slaughtered in hangars, war rooms, temples. Kids, actual kids, younglings, executed by men they called Sir 5 minutes earlier. You'd think some of them resisted, that someone, somewhere, would have had the will to stop it. But that's the point of the chip. It wasn't designed to give you options. It was designed to remove them. Some clones fought it. Rex tried. You could see it on his face. Tears streaming down as his body betrayed him. He shouted at Ahsoka to run, desperately clinging to the last sliver of himself before he lost full control. He still pulled the trigger. He still fired. The chip made sure of it. Fives knew the truth. He figured it out early. He uncovered the chip, the cover-up, everything. But no one listened. They branded him unstable. He died trying to warn the others. They buried his body and the truth with it. By the time the smoke clears, most Jedi are dead. The few who survive disappear into exile, wounded and hunted. The Republic, the thing you thought you were fighting for, is gone. And all that's left in its place is an empire. You, the clone, the Republic's perfect soldier, now serves something else entirely. An old man in a cloak who orchestrated the whole thing from behind a Senate desk. You played your part perfectly, and you never saw it coming. From the outside, people call it a betrayal. And yeah, it looks like one. The clone army turns on the Jedi in a single coordinated strike, timed down to the second, from every planet, every front, every legion. That doesn't happen by accident. It looks cold, calculated. But from your perspective, it's theft. They stole your body, your mind, your choices. You weren't the betrayer. You were betrayed, from birth. The Kaminoans built the chip into you before you ever took your first breath. Lama Su, Nala Se, they knew. They weren't cloning for the sake of loyalty. They were creating pre-programmed assets. Jango's DNA was tweaked, filtered, loaded with hardware and backup plans. The Jedi thought they were in control, but they were passengers, riding a machine built for collapse, and you were the engine. So, you made it through Order 66. You didn't pull the trigger. Or maybe you did, and now you're choking on it every day since. Either way, you're still breathing, and that makes you a problem, a loose end. If you resisted the chip, you're defective. If you broke free after the fact, you're unstable. And if you stayed loyal to the Empire, you're obsolete. You're no longer a soldier, you're surplus. Because here's what the galaxy didn't tell you while it was cheering on the Empire's rise. Clones were always disposable, designed for one war, with no plan for what came after. When the fighting stopped and the Jedi were dust, the clones weren't honoured. They were scrapped. At first, you're still used. Clones stick around for mop-up operations. You clear out holdouts, secure Republic installations, stomp down riots on Outer Rim worlds where people still wave the old flag. You're rebranded from a clone trooper to a peacekeeping unit overnight. The armour shifts. Phase 2 gets a dark paint job and a new insignia, but it's still you underneath. Same face, same voice, same trauma. You're doing missions for commanders you've never met. New recruits, fresh faces. 2 fresh kids, really. Not clones, volunteers, conscripts. The beginning of the stormtrooper program. And these guys, they're bad. Like, can't hit a womp rat at 10 meters bad. No tactics, no unit cohesion. Half of them have never seen combat, but they're obedient. They don't ask questions, and they don't have chips in their brains that might randomly malfunction and cause a PR disaster. That's all the Empire needs. Tarkin, you know, that skinny walking corpse with cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass, is the one who really pushes for it. He looks at the clone budget and sees a waste of credits. Why pay for a clone when you can draft a farm kid for free and train him in 6 weeks? So the clone phase-out begins. You start getting fewer deployments. Training rotations get reassigned to stormtrooper cadets. You watch green uniforms fill up your former barracks. You hear whispers of decommissioning. You pretend not to notice. But deep down, you know what's coming. You're being erased. Some clones get reassigned to desk jobs, administrative roles, logistics, guard duty on backwater mining colonies. They stick you in a communications tower on a moon nobody cares about and tell you to log cargo manifests until your hair turns grey, if it ever does. You used to lead squads into separatist strongholds. Now you're counting crates. Others get offered early retirement, which is a fancy way of saying, pack your gear and disappear before we make you. The Empire doesn't do ceremonies. You get no farewell, no salute, just an empty locker and an open shuttle hatch. A lot of clones don't make it that far. Some of them, like Cody, stay loyal for a while. They buy into the lie. They think the Empire is the Republic 2.0. They follow orders, even as the orders start getting darker. Hunt Jedi survivors, suppress civilian unrest, pacify entire villages. At some point, even Cody starts to break. He hesitates, he sees what's happening, and then he vanishes. Then you've got the clones like the Bad Batch, guys who are already different from day one, defective in the best ways, enhanced, weird, borderline rebellious. The moment they realized what the Empire was turning into, they dipped, off the grid, running ops for credits and morality, trying to make up for the mess the rest of the army was forced to be part of. They're not fighting against something, they're fighting for something, which is rare these days. And then there's Rex, the ghost of the GAR. Pulls his chip out, fakes his death, and starts building a new kind of resistance. He knows the system's broken. He knows the clones got played, so he does what he can. But he's just one man, one face, and there are millions like him, all with the same scars. Kamino, gone. The place that birthed the army, blasted off the map. You think the Empire wanted anyone digging through those lab archives, discovering the chip program, or the cloning protocols? They deleted it all, vaporized the cities, flattened the cloning facilities, left nothing but ocean and smoke. That planet raised an entire generation of soldiers, and the Empire turned it into a tomb to hide its sins. After that, it's a downward spiral. Some clones go underground, hide in the shadows, change their names, their armor, their faces if they can. They carve out new identities in slums, junkyards, fringe worlds. You'll find one working as a dock loader, another as a mechanic on a rust bucket freighter. They live simple, small, forgotten lives, because being remembered in this galaxy gets you killed. Others aren't that lucky. Some clones are rounded up and forced into Imperial indoctrination camps. Reprogrammed, conditioned. The same guys who resisted Order 66 now march in black, under Palpatine's banner, like puppets with all the strings visible. You can see it in their eyes. Blank, empty, flickering like a dying terminal. And what about those shiny new stormtroopers? The ones who replaced you. They wear the armor, but they'll never understand it. Never know what it meant. The fear, the weight, the pain of watching brothers die in it. They treat it like a job. Like it's optional. Like they can clock out and go home. You never had that luxury. You didn't serve the Empire by choice. You were engineered for it. And now, you're obsolete. The funny part is, you thought the war ended. You thought Order 66 was the end of the story. Turns out, it was the start of another one. The one where clones stopped being soldiers and started being survivors. You didn't fight droids anymore. You fought irrelevance. You fought the slow, grinding erasure of your entire existence. You fought your own programming, your own face, your own guilt, and the galaxy moved on without you. Nobody built a monument for the clone army. No parades, no names engraved on marble. You were buried under the Empire's history. Just another tool retired when it finished the job. All that remains are stories, scattered and half remembered. Faces in crowds, footsteps in dirt. You think you'd handle that well? You think you could live with all of that rattling around in your skull? One day you're the Republic's finest. The next, you're a number in a spreadsheet, crossed out and replaced with someone younger, cheaper and worse. If you're lucky, maybe you find a place where nobody asks questions. Maybe you live out your life tending a farm or flying cargo in backwater space lanes. Maybe you find peace, but if you're like most clones, you don't. You wander, you remember, and you never stop asking yourself if you were ever really free to begin with. Let's be real. Up to this point, you've been nodding along like, yeah man, rough life, but I could probably handle it. No, you couldn't. You absolutely could not. You wouldn't even make it past breakfast if they served breakfast, which they don't. So now we're doing it. First, you'd cry in the first hour, literally. You wake up in a tube with a breathing mask jammed halfway down your throat. You're not even born yet, and you're already drowning in saline and existential dread. The first thing you feel is cold. The first thing you hear is Lama Su's monotone voice telling you your property. Second, you think 8 hours is a long shift? Try 18-hour death drills. You're used to grinding a 9 to 5 and getting mad if your boss schedules you past 6. Meanwhile, clones are doing 18-hour live fire simulations in 0G with actual explosives. You miss a shot, you don't get a nice try. You get knocked unconscious and dragged back to the medbay, if you're lucky. Training isn't training, it's weeding. If you can't sprint through 6 kilometers of jagged terrain while blindfolded, dragging your buddy and dodging snipers, you're gone. Washed out, recycled into biomatter for the next batch. You wouldn't even finish the warm-up. Third, you need personal space. There are 10,000 clones on a Venator-class Star Destroyer. That's 10,000 guys sharing bunks, air, showers, meals, everything. Ever tried using a military toilet stall with 2 dudes arguing about blaster maintenance 3 feet away, while another guy is snoring through a concussion on the floor? You'll never be alone. Not for a second. No headphones, no Netflix, no me time. Your mental health app would uninstall itself out of pity. You want AC? There is no AC. You land on Geonosis. Surface temp, 45 degrees Celsius. That's 113 degrees Fahrenheit for you Imperials. Full armor, no ventilation. Your sweat is boiling inside plastoid plates that were never designed for desert warfare. You get hit with a sandstorm, and the joints in your armor start locking up. Your HUD glitches, the visor fogs. You try to complain and a trooper next to you says, "My helmet melted onto my cheek last week. Keep moving." And that's before the bugs start shooting at you. You need a snack? That's cute. Clones eat ration cubes. They're the consistency of drywall and taste like cardboard dipped in battery acid. You ever seen blue milk turn green because it sat next to a busted coolant line? Yeah, that's dinner. You won't find a vending machine, protein bar, or hot meal anywhere in the Outer Rim. And don't even think about coffee, unless you mean the recycled engine coolant someone boiled on a thermal charge and poured into a helmet. You wouldn't survive the mess line. You'd start hallucinating carbs by day 3. You flinch at loud noises, enjoy getting shelled for 72 hours straight. Real talk. Combat isn't Call of Duty. You don't get dramatic music when things go bad. You get ringing ears, screams, and shrapnel embedding into your armor at 300 meters per second. A droid mortar hits the trench next to you, and the only thing left is a boot. You blink, and your squad's cut in half. Nobody yells medic, you are the medic. And your training? A half-day seminar with a clone who once sewed his arm back on with fishing wire. Your ears would never recover. Your brain neither. You care about your body? That's adorable. You pull a muscle in the gym and take a week off. Clones take a blaster shot through the thigh, slap on Bacta, and limp back into formation in under 5 minutes. You don't get sick days. You get adrenaline shots and the promise that maybe the medbay won't amputate this time. Your bones break? Tough. Reset them against a wall and keep going. You think getting 4 hours of sleep is hard? Try 3 while sitting upright in your armor during hyperspace turbulence. Your chiropractor would faint just looking at you. You post your mood online. Clones don't even have moods. You think you'd cope with the psychological trauma of seeing 47 of your brothers die in one battle? Of executing a Jedi you trusted with your life? Of waking up every day with the knowledge that you're aging at double speed? And no one will care when you collapse at 40. Clones don't get therapy, they get silence. And if they break down, they get reassigned or decommissioned. So now you're still alive, still waking up, still following orders, but things feel off. You look around and realize, this isn't the Republic anymore. You're wearing a new helmet now, new armor, new name, new regime, and brother, none of it feels right. You're still a clone, but now you're being called something else. Stormtrooper. At first, you don't question it. You've been conditioned not to. Uniform gets updated? Cool. Helmet gets a different visor? Sure. You're told the Republic became an empire. Same chain of command, different letterhead. You shrug it off. Orders are orders. You still report for duty, still polish your boots, Still run drills like you're going back to Geonosis tomorrow. But soon, the changes start to pile up. You start to notice the difference. First, the armor. Let's talk about that disaster. This new stormtrooper gear? It's garbage. Lighter, cheaper, thinner. Made for quantity, not quality. Your old clone armor had its flaws. We roasted that already. But at least it was made to protect soldiers who actually saw combat. This new stuff? You get hit with a stiff breeze and it cracks. The ventilation sucks again. The HUD is simplified, dumbed down. It's built for mass production, not survivability. You start thinking this isn't armor. It's a uniform. Something to look scary, not stay alive. Then the missions. You're no longer fighting for peace. You're enforcing compliance, guarding resource lines, suppressing uprisings, subduing civilians who don't even know what law they broke. You're deployed to settlements that used to cheer for the Republic. Now they look at you like you're some monster stomping through their village. You used to be a soldier. Now you're muscle, crowd control, a blunt object in the Empire's hand, and you feel it. You feel that shift deep down. It used to be, when you landed on a planet, you were the good guys. Now, people close their doors, parents pull their kids back. Then your squad, your brothers are getting older, some are limping, some aren't here anymore. And in their place, new faces. They weren't trained for war, they weren't bred for loyalty. They ask too many questions, they joke too much, they hesitate, they panic. You see one of them flinch during a live exercise, and you know, this guy would have died on Kamino during orientation. You don't trust them, and they don't trust you. Because to them, you're a relic, a product of some mysterious cloning program they don't understand. You talk about Geonosis or Umbara, and they stare at you blankly. They weren't there. They never fought beside Jedi. They don't get what it meant to lose your entire battalion in one night and still walk into the next battle without flinching. You've got 10 years of experience in your boots, and they still call you old man. You start getting sidelined. The new commanders, high-ranking Imperials, they don't like your independence, your tendency to think, your habit of disobeying dumb orders that get people killed. You speak up in a briefing and get reassigned to patrol duty. Speak up again, and suddenly you're not in the room anymore. You notice that clones aren't leading squads anymore. You're taking orders from officers who've never seen real combat. Rich kids from Coruscant who got fast-tracked into command. They don't know your name. They don't care. They treat you like you're lucky to still be breathing. And the worst part? You start to believe them. Your joints ache, your reflexes slow, your thoughts drift during drills. You've lived twice as fast as a normal man, and now the years are catching up. You start forgetting things, names, faces. You're still sharper than the recruits, but your edge isn't what it was. You start to feel like one of those scratched up Phazon helmets tossed in a supply crate. Once useful, now obsolete. Waking up isn't the same anymore. As a clone, you snapped awake before the lights even came on. You had fire in your veins, purpose in your bones. Now the alarm buzzes like a broken droid, and you just sit there for a second, wondering what day it is, which ship you're on, and why the hell you're still doing this. You get a reassignment one day, Outer Rim Patrol, Backwater Moon. No real threat, just a presence assignment. Remind the locals that the Empire still owns the sky. You land, set up the perimeter, run the same sweep you've done 100 times before. It's peaceful, boring. Then a kid throws a rock at your leg. Not even a big rock, just a pebble. He can't be older than 7, and you freeze, because the way he looked at you, it was the same look you gave the separatist droids as a cadet, pure hatred. He wasn't even born during the war, but whatever his parents told him, whatever the Empire did to his village, to him, you're the villain now. You try to speak, to say something. He runs. You don't chase, you just stand there, staring at the dust cloud he left behind. You've never felt smaller. Stormtrooper life is beige. It's the same corridor, the same briefing room, the same empty praise from some over-polished officer who doesn't even know your designation. You used to run toward danger because you believed in the man beside you. Now, you run because it's on the checklist. Eventually, you stop wondering if you're being replaced, because you already have been. The new troopers outnumber you. Your name's been deleted from the roster, replaced with a newer, shorter ID. They messed it up the first time. Assigned your helmet to a rookie. You had to file a complaint to get it back. They gave you a new one instead. Wrong size. You wear it anyway, because at the end of the day, that's what you are now. And the cruelest part? The helmet still fits. So, they gave you a rank, not a code, an actual nameplate, a crisp new uniform, and a shiny little badge that says, you're someone now. An officer in the Imperial military. Big promotion, right? Except it's not. It's a leash. Becoming an officer in the Empire, when you're a clone, is like being handed a microphone in a room where no one wants to hear your voice. You're not there to lead. You're there to fill in the cracks. The Empire doesn't actually want you to succeed. They just don't want everything to collapse before their new conscripts figure out how to lace their boots. That badge on your chest doesn't mean you earned their respect. It means you're a temporary fix for a problem they don't want to admit exists. The real joke? You're not surrounded by your brothers anymore. You used to be part of something. One unit, one voice. Every battle you fought as a collective. Now, you walk into a room and it's full of smug, fresh-faced human officers who've never touched a battlefield. They've got family names, political ties, handshakes, backroom deals. They don't even look at you as a person. You're a relic, a leftover. The war ended and someone forgot to throw you out. Even the rank doesn't help. You outrank some of them? Doesn't matter. They talk over you, correct you, dismiss you like you're a malfunctioning droid. You speak from experience and they call it unorthodox. You suggest a better strategy and they say, that's not standard protocol. They see your scars and your records, and all they think is, how much longer is this guy going to last before he glitches out? You don't fit in. Not with the officers, not with the troops. And speaking of troops, you'd think the TKs would respect you. You've bled for the Republic, survived campaigns that most of these guys haven't even read about. You've led charges, lost brothers, seen real war. But that doesn't matter to them. They weren't trained to look up to you. They were trained to replace you, to think of you as outdated, unstable, past your expiration date. The propaganda made sure of that. You're not their commander. You're their reminder. You're the echo of a war they don't understand, and a loyalty they'll never feel. So instead of saluting you with respect, they do it with a smirk. Or worse, fear. They've seen the reports. Clones turned on the Jedi. What if he turns on us? That kind of rumour spreads fast in a barracks full of recruits with no real discipline. Now let's talk about your actual job. You imagine strategy meetings, military decisions, calling shots from a command centre. What you get instead is bureaucracy. Endless drills with half-trained TKs who can barely march in a straight line. Paperwork that stacks higher than a Wookiee. Disciplinary reports for things like helmet smudges and delayed salutes. You used to lead battalions through citywide firefights, and now you're managing hallway patrol shifts and arguing about rations. And it gets darker. Sometimes the orders come down from high up and they make no sense. You're told to discipline a squad for cowardice, and the punishment is lethal. You're handed a list of names and told to approve transfer orders that lead straight into black sites. You're instructed to suppress complaints, erase files, lie to your own men. And if you hesitate, you're the problem. There's no room for discussion in the Empire. You don't voice concern, you don't question policy, you don't think, you execute. And that's when it hits you. You're not an officer. You're a tool with just enough autonomy to take the blame when something breaks. The worst part is the silence. You don't have a unit anymore. There's no one to vent to, no one who gets it. The TKs won't open up to you. They're scared of you or annoyed by you. The other officers keep their distance unless they're giving you orders. The few clone officers still around are stationed light years away or buried in so much red tape that you only hear about them in whispers. You're stuck in a glass box, watching a new generation butcher everything you and your brothers fought for. And when you slip, even a little, they pounce. You get flagged for behavioural irregularities. They start asking questions. You notice new eyes in your reports, extra surveillance near your quarters. You get called in for routine evaluations. Suddenly, your transfer orders look strange. They're vague, open-ended, the kind you don't come back from. Because the Empire doesn't fire clone officers. That would be too obvious, too messy. Instead, they just relocate you, assign you to an outpost in the Outer Rim where supply runs never arrive on time, and reinforcements are a myth. Or worse, they send you to one of the Empire's research facilities, not as a subject but as security. You'll watch things in those places that you'll never unsee, and if you speak up, no one ever hears from you again. Even if you do everything right, follow orders, shut your mouth, play the game, there's no future. Promotions stall out, your command authority gets trimmed little by little. The people you train get promoted over you. You blink and you're still stuck at the same rank 5 years later. But now the new officers are younger, hungrier, and looking at you like a stepping stone. Eventually, they'll find a reason to replace you. Maybe they say you're too old. Maybe they discover a medical issue. Maybe they just stop responding to your requests. You fade out of the system the same way you came in. Numbered, controlled, and expendable. You got repackaged. You went from cannon fodder to fall guy. You would not survive this, not even for a week. You'd collapse under the pressure the moment you realized nobody wants your leadership. They want your silence. You'd break when the first bright-eyed recruit looks at you like you're a relic. You'd crack the first time you're asked to punish a trooper for the same fear you've felt every day since Umbara. And if you don't crack, if you grit your teeth and play along, that's almost worse, because now you're watching yourself become exactly what they want. A compliant puppet who gave up everything for a seat at a table you were never invited to. So no, this isn't a promotion. This is slow erasure with a clean uniform and a fancy title. You were made to lead brothers into battle. Now you're stuck managing children in armor who'll never understand what you were built for. You think cloning ends when Kamino floods. But Kamino wasn't destroyed because cloning failed. It was destroyed because cloning worked too well, and the Emperor wanted it under his control, not floating in the middle of the galaxy where senators could ask questions. If you were a clone still alive after the war, that's when things actually got dangerous. Because once the fighting stopped, you stopped being a soldier and started being a resource. The Kaminoans didn't die with their labs. Nala Se didn't get executed. She got extracted. Same with the data, the gene banks, the growth acceleration tech, the inhibitor chip research. The Empire didn't erase cloning, they centralized it. And once they did that, the rules disappeared completely. This is where Mount Tantiss enters the picture, and this part is not legends anymore. This is canon. Deep in the Wayland system, Mount Tantiss became the Empire's main black site research facility. The Bad Batch shows us this place, but what we see there is just the surface. The Emperor didn't want an army, he already had one. What he wanted was control over life itself, and clones were the perfect test subjects. Think about it. You're genetically identical, fully mapped, already accelerated, already conditioned to obey authority. You don't have families filing missing person reports. You don't have legal rights. You don't even technically have a birthday. From an Imperial scientist's perspective, you're not a victim, you're a variable. So clones started getting reassigned. On paper, you're transferred for medical evaluation, or advanced duty, or special research support. In reality, you're put on a transport and sent somewhere that doesn't exist on star charts. At Mount Tantiss, cloning research went in directions that would have gotten Kamino shut down instantly during the Republic era. Force sensitivity became the holy grail. Palpatine was obsessed with it. He wanted bodies that could hold his power, bodies that wouldn't decay, bodies he could jump into when the old one failed. Canon confirms this now through Project Necromancer, which is the direct pipeline between Tantiss and the resurrection attempts we eventually see decades later. And here's where clones come back into the picture in the worst possible way. Early Force-sensitive cloning was a disaster. The problem wasn't creating life. The problem was stability. Cloned bodies rejected the Force. Nervous systems collapsed, minds fractured. Some test subjects lived for hours, some for days, some longer, but almost none of them were functional. They screamed, they convulsed, they deteriorated. That's not speculation. That's consistent across both canon and Legends attempts at Force cloning. So what do you do when your test subjects keep failing? You start experimenting on the base template. That's you. Clones were used as control groups, hybrids, hosts, and genetic scaffolding. Some were modified to slow aging, others had neurological changes forced into them. Some were injected with altered midichlorian-rich blood to see how their bodies reacted. Most didn't survive. The ones who did weren't exactly alive in any normal sense, and the truly horrifying part is that not all of them were restrained. Some clones were fully conscious during these experiments. They knew what was being done to them. They were monitored as they broke down physically and mentally because that data was useful. Pain responses mattered. Psychological collapse mattered. How long a clone could remain obedient while being dismantled mattered. Now imagine you're not on the table. Imagine you're one of the clones assigned to guard Tantis. That sounds safer, right? You've still got armor, still got a blaster, but you're walking hallways filled with failed experiments, tanks full of half-formed bodies, rooms sealed because whatever's inside isn't stable enough to risk opening the door. You hear things, you smell things, and sometimes you recognize things. A voice, a face, a serial number scratched into a wall by someone who used to be in your unit. Some clones cracked under that pressure. Some tried to help subjects escape, some sabotaged equipment, some just froze one day and couldn't bring themselves to pull the trigger anymore. None of them lasted long after that. And then there are the volunteers. This part's uncomfortable, but it's important. Not every clone sent into experimental programs was dragged there, kicking and screaming. Some volunteered. The war gave clones purpose. When it ended, a lot of them were left with nothing. Accelerated aging kicking in, joints failing, reflexes slowing. They were being phased out, replaced, ignored. So when an Imperial officer says, "We still need you, you're still important, you can help shape the future," some clones listened. They signed away what little autonomy they had left just to matter again, and the Empire happily took them up on it. Those volunteers were used until they broke. When the experiment failed, they weren't mourned. They weren't even remembered. They were logged as unsuccessful trials and disposed of. All of this feeds directly into Palpatine's long game. Every clone that died screaming taught the Empire something new about how far they could push biology before it snapped. And if you think this stopped early in the Imperial era, it didn't. The research continued for decades. Tantis survived, its data survived, its scientists survived. Even after the Empire fell, remnants carried pieces of that knowledge forward. That's how you eventually get strand casts, imperfect bodies, and the continued obsession with cloning force-capable vessels. So where does that leave you, the clone? Best case scenario, you're never selected, you age out, get shoved into a quiet posting, and die forgotten. Worst case, you get noticed. Your genetics show promise, your record marks you as resilient, and suddenly your loyalty earns you a one-way trip into a program you don't come back from.